Hello, I'm Jeffrey Sessoms. Welcome to this quick command line tutorial on how to use the copy command cp. In this video, I'll demonstrate how to use the copy command cp to copy a file, how to copy a file from one directory to another, how to copy a file with a space in the file name, how to avoid overwriting files with the copy command, how to copy multiple files at once, and how to copy a directory. Be sure to download the PDF of essential commands that I created for my command line course. You can find the link in the description. Let's get to it. The copy command cp copies files and directories and has two forms. Both forms accept 0 or more option arguments that can be used to modify the command's behavior. In the first form, the source argument is the name of the file or directory that cp will copy. The destination argument is the name that cp will assign to the new copy. In the second form, the source list arguments are a list of one or more files or directories that cp will copy. The destination argument is the directory name where the copies will be placed. Now, before we continue, I should caution you that using the cp command to copy a source file to a destination file that already exists will cause the existing destination file to be overwritten, losing its contents. So I'll be sure to show you in just a moment how to avoid that. First, let's see a simple example of how the copy command works using the first form. Currently, my working directory is in Documents, where I have several files that I want to copy. The list command shows that Documents contain several files and a directory named Messages. To make a copy of this file you see here called Resume, we can enter cp resume-copy. Here you can see that we're using the copy command cp without options. Next is the name of the file that we want to copy, followed by the new name that will be assigned to the copy. If we list the contents of the directory again, we can see that a new copy of the file was made using the name that we assigned. To copy a file from one directory to another, we need to specify the path to the file that we want to copy and the path to the destination where we want to copy our file to. Let's use the list command's recursive and long format options to list the details of our current directory and its subdirectories. In our current directory, Documents, we have a file called Contacts that we want to copy over to the directory Messages as a file called Guests. Notice that in the Messages directory, we have the files Greeting, Memo, and the directory called Invitations. To copy the contacts file from our working directory, Documents, to the Messages directory as a file called Guests, we can enter the command cp contacts messages/guests. Here we're using the copy command cp with no options. Next is the path to the file that we want to copy. Since the file is located in our working directory, we can simply use its file name. And last is the path to the destination where we want to copy our file to as the file name Guests. If we list the contents of the Messages directory, we can see that a copy of the contacts file was successfully written there as the file called guests. Windows, Mac, and Linux operating systems allow file and directory names to contain spaces. In general, creating file or directory names with spaces should be avoided because it can complicate commands used to process files and directories on the command line or in scripts containing multiple commands. The reason commands become more complicated is because the command line uses space characters to separate tokens or words on the command line. Since spaces are allowed in file and directory names, we do need to be prepared to handle them. For example, in our working directory, we have a file called cover letter here that contains a space between the word cover and letter. Notice that the file name appears between quotes, unlike the other file names without a space. Observe what happens when we attempt to create a copy of the cover letter file as cover letter copy. Let's enter the command cp cover letter cover dash letter dash copy. Here we're using the copy command cp without options. Next is the name of the file containing a space that we're attempting to copy. And last is the name that we're attempting to assign the copy. We see that executing the command causes an error message stating that cover letter copy is not a directory. Because spaces are used to separate tokens on the command line, the command is interpreted as to copy the files named cover and letter to the destination directory called cover letter copy. There are several problems with this interpretation. First, the files cover and letter do not exist in our current working directory, as you can see from here. Only the single file named cover letter exists. The other problem is that the last token on the command line here, cover letter copy, is interpreted as a destination directory, which also does not exist. So we receive an error. To copy a file with a space in the file name, we must quote or escape the space character. Now, there are two methods used to quote or escape special characters on the command line. First, to escape the space characters within the file name, we precede each space with a backslash. For example, we can enter cp space cover backslash space letter space messages slash cover backslash space letter backslash space copy. Here we're using the copy command cp without options. Next, we use the backslash to escape the space character within the file that we want to copy. In this case, we want to copy the file cover letter. Last, in our destination path, we have here, we use a backslash to escape each space within the file name that we want to assign to the copy. Listing the contents of the messages directory, we can see that cover letter copy was successfully copied to the messages directory and assigned the file name cover letter copy, including the spaces you see here. The other way to escape special characters is to quote them by enclosing them within single quotation marks. Let's see a quick example of that while we reset the messages directory by deleting the cover letter copy file that we just copied to there using the remove command rm. So we can enter rm messages slash quote cover space letter space copy and then close with a single quote. So here we're escaping those spaces within the cover letter copy file name using the quotation marks. Listing the contents of the messages directory, again, we can see that we successfully deleted the cover letter copy file. Now, let's see an example of quoting the spaces within a file name using the copy command cp. Again, in our working directory, we want to copy the file cover letter, whose file name contains a space, to the messages directory, and assign the file name cover letter copy to the copy using single quotes to escape any space characters. So to do that, we can enter the command cp cover letter in single quotes messages slash cover letter copy, again wrapped in single quotes. So here we're using the copy command cp without options. Next, we use single quotation marks to escape the space character within the file that we want to copy. Last, in our path, we use single quotation marks to escape the spaces within the file name that we want to assign to the copy. Listing the contents of the messages directory, we can see that cover letter was successfully copied to the messages directory and assigned the file name cover letter copy, including the spaces. Now, personally, I find using single quotes to escape special characters easier to read on the command line than backslashes, but either can be used. Earlier, I said that if we aren't careful, we could accidentally overwrite an existing destination file, potentially losing hours of work and valuable data. So let's see an example of how that can happen. Let's enter ls-l ~documents messages. On the screen, we've listed the contents of the working directory, documents, which contains this child directory, messages. The messages directory contains this file named memo, which has a last modified timestamp of November 14th, 12:15 hours. Observe what happens when we attempt to copy the email file from the working directory to the messages directory and assign the file name memo to the copy. So we'll enter cp email messages slash memo. So here we're using the copy command cp without options. Next is the file that we want to copy. And last is the destination where we want to copy our email file to with the assigned name of memo. If we list the contents of messages again with ls-l messages, we can see that the last modified timestamp of memo has changed. Well, that's because we have just overwritten the previous memo file with a copy of the email file that we named memo. In other words, whatever data the previous memo file contained is now lost. To avoid accidentally overwriting a file, we have a couple of options. We can use the list command, ls, to avoid choosing a file name that already exists, or we can pass the interactive option to the copy command. Let's clear the screen and see how the copy command's interactive option can help us avoid overwriting files. Once again, we've listed the contents of the working directory, documents, and its child directory, messages, whose contents we can actually see down here. In the messages directory, notice that there already exists a file called greeting with a last modified timestamp of October 20th, 2112 hours. Observe what happens when we attempt to copy the email file from the working directory to the messages directory and assign the file name greeting to the copy, this time passing the interactive option -i. So to do that, we can enter cp-i email messages /greeting. So here you can see we're using the copy command cp followed by the interactive option -i followed by the name of the file that we want to copy and ending with the destination file where we want to copy our email file to with the assigned name of greeting. So notice that passing option I causes the copy command to display an interactive prompt before an existing file is overwritten. This allows us to choose whether or not we want to actually overwrite the file. So to overwrite the file, we can enter Y for yes. Otherwise, to keep the existing file and abort the copy operation, we can enter N for no. Since overwriting the greeting file is not something that we want to do, we'll enter N for no. Listing the contents of the messages directory again, we see that the timestamp of greeting is October 20th, 2112 hours, which matches the timestamp before the copy command was executed here. So the copy command's interactive option -i successfully prevented us from overwriting the existing greeting file. The copy command's second form allows multiple files to be copied to a directory. To copy multiple files to a directory, we begin with the cp command, followed by a list of source files to copy, then end by passing the destination where we want the files copied to. Let's see an example of that. First, let's list the contents of our working directory and its child directory messages with ls-l ~/documents messages. So here you see the contents of our working directory documents and its child directory messages, whose contents we can see down here. In the documents directory is a file called email that we want to copy to the invitations directory found inside our messages directory. We also want to copy the guests file within messages to the invitations directory as well. To copy both files to the invitations directory at once, we can enter the command cp email messages /guests messages /invitations. So here we're using the copy command cp without options, followed by the file that we want to copy, followed by another file that we want to copy found in our messages directory, and ending with the destination where we want the files email and guests copied to. Listing the contents of the invitations directory, we can see that both files, email and guests, were successfully copied. So far, we have only used the copy command to copy files. So let's see an example of how to copy a directory. On Linux-like systems, every directory contains a symbolic reference to itself with the period, as well as a symbolic reference to the parent directory with the double period. This means that copying even the simplest directory involves copying multiple items, possibly many files and directories at a time, instead of a single file. So, to copy a directory, we need to pass the recursive option -r to the copy command. This will allow the copy command to copy recursively by descending into the source directories and copying files to corresponding destination directories. For example, to copy the directory messages here, along with its contents, we can enter the command cp-r messages-copy. Here we're using the copy command cp, followed by the recursive option -r, followed by the directory name that we want to copy, and ending with the destination directory where we want our messages directory copied to. Let's list the contents of documents to see the result. So ls-l ~/documents. So here we can see that a copy of messages was successfully made. So let's go ahead and clear the screen and list the contents of messages and the messages copy to see if the contents of messages was copied successfully to the messages copied. Here we've just listed the contents of our messages directory and its copy, messages copied directory. So here we can also see that the contents of messages was copied to the messages copy directory as well. That wraps up this quick tutorial on the copy command. If you found this tutorial helpful, then hit that like button and be sure to check out my other courses and tutorials. If you're serious about improving your knowledge and skills as a developer, then make sure to click on the subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you can get more content like this in the future. Thanks for watching.